You're listening to the X-Zone Radio Show, live and around the world on the Talkstar Radio Network, X-Zone Broadcast Network, UK High Definition Radio,
Euro High Definition Radio,
and Star Cable. Our toll-free telephone number worldwide is 1-800-610-7035.
Our email address, xzone@xzoneradiotv.com.
On MSN Messenger, xzoneradiotv@hotmail.com.
And our website,
www.xzoneradiotv.com.
The X-Zone radio and TV show is largely an opinion talk show. All opinions, comments, or statements of fact expressed by Rob McConnell's guests are strictly their own and are not to be construed as those of the X-Zone radio and TV show or in any manner endorsed by Rob McConnell, Relmar McConnell Media Company, Talkstar Radio Network, its affiliated stations, or employees.
All Hit Radio.
Welcome to the X-Zone, a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. Now, here's your host, Rob McConnell.
Doing that thing you do, breaking my heart into a million pieces, like you always do. And you don't mean to be cruel, you never even knew about the heartache I've been going through. Well, I try to forget you, girl, but it's just so hard to do. Every time you do that thing you do.
And welcome to the X-Zone, everyone. My name is Rob McConnell, and for the next 4 hours, I'm your host and your guide as together we cross the time-space continuum to this place that I call the X-Zone. It's a place where people dare to believe and dare to be heard. It's a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality, and the X-Zone comes to you Monday through Friday from 10 p.m. Eastern until 2 a.m. Eastern on the Talkstar Radio Network, X-Zone Broadcast Network, UK High Definition Radio, Euro High Definition Radio, Star Cable, X-Zone TV, and our affiliates right across Canada, the United States, Central America, South America, the Pacific Rim, Asia, Africa, and Europe. 1-800-610-7035, worldwide toll-free. Email xzone@xzoneradiotv.com. On MSN Messenger, xzoneradiotv@hotmail.com. And our website, www.xzoneradiotv.com. My first guest today is Gregory Sams. We're going to be talking about Gregory's new book entitled Son of God. That's S-U-N of small g, capital O, small d. And does it really make sense that our 13.7 billion-year-old universe waited 13.698 billion years before anything in it developed what we call consciousness? And that the experience was restricted to humans? Son of God is a radical rethink of our sun, our universe, and what it means to be alive, using scientific ideas and bringing them to their logical, philosophical conclusions. Our guest this hour, Gregory Sams, proposes that our sun itself is conscious, living, and fully aware of its place in the universe. Furthermore, our sun communicates with other stars and with us in ways which mirror our own communities and even in the way in which our brains function. X-Zone Nation, according to my guest this hour, Gregory Sams, creative intelligence is a bottom-up system in which everything from molecules of water to neurons in our brain to the sun itself is working together to greatly steer and organize our universe. For humans, the sun is the center of our lives, a fact that the ancient Sumerians, Chaldeans, Assyrians, Egyptians, Greeks, Romans, Mayans, Inca, Aztec, Celts, and North Americans all realized, but we do not understand everything that they knew back then today. Now, when I come back from this 2-minute commercial break, my guest this hour, Gregory Sams, is going to be joining us. He is the author of Son of God. We're going to talk to him about discovering a universe brimming with intelligence and design that has no need for an intelligent designer. This is the X-Zone. My name is Rob McConnell. 1-800-610-7035 is our toll-free number. Email xzone at xzoneradiotv.com. On MSN Messenger, xzoneradiotv at hotmail.com. And our website, www.xzoneradiotv.com. I'll be back on the other side of this 2-minute commercial break as we start today here in the X-Zone from our studios in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. I'll be back. Don't go away. Welcome back, everyone. Gregory Sams is our special guest this hour. He is the author of Son of God. And Gregory, welcome to the X-Zone.
Hello, Rob. Nice to be here.
Great talking to you. Tell us a little bit about yourself, Greg.
Myself, I've been... My father, when I was very young, told me always to keep off the beaten track, which just seemed like good advice to me. And the first thing that I got involved in with my brother Craig was introducing England or Britain to the idea that what you ate affected your health, because that used to be hippy-dippy stuff. You are what you eat. Yeah, ha ha. And we sold the first ever brown rice and millet flakes and miso and seaweed and all that kind of stuff. And it built up from a restaurant into magazines, wholesaling, manufacturing, distribution, and a financial nightmare for this old hippie. And so I left that and started the first veggie burger.
Wow.
Came up with the name Veggie Burger, trademarked it in the UK, and that did really well. And that was my ticket out of food into chaos theory. And I opened up the world's first shop, this is still keeping off the beaten track, that ever sold sort of fractal postcards, posters, T-shirts, all those wonderful, colorful Mandelbrot fractal stuff. And then I wrote a book based on the lessons chaos theory has for how we run our world, and that was titled Uncommon Sense, The State is Out of Date, showing us how efficient we are at doing things and how inefficient central government is. And that was great. That gave me a taste for writing, and after I'd sort of done writing and selling that, I started working on my new book, which you mentioned earlier, Son of God, in 2000, and I published that last year, and that, as you mentioned, it really introduces us to the biggest elephant in the room that you could ever imagine, which is the nature of this wonderful ball of light, the sun, which travels across our skies every day, and that's where I am now. I don't know what beaten track I'm gonna step off of next time, but right now, I think it's my most important mission in life is to get people to realize the true nature of the sun.
Now, Greg, people used to worship the sun a long time ago, but wasn't that just born out of ignorance? Don't people today know better?
We certainly don't know better. We don't know any different today.
Ah.
And it wasn't born out of ignorance. It's something that people just did throughout the world. It doesn't matter what century or what continent you go to. Just like people found out that salt makes food taste better, or that it's good to cook certain foods before you eat them, and things people intuitively, naturally understood and developed wherever they lived, just being human beings, participating, interfacing with the world. And one of the things that everybody recognized was that the sun was some kind of a life form, and a divine one at that. Now, they didn't have the wonderful technology we've got that can sort of add, punctuation and information to that concept. So they, that manifested in different ways in different places, but it was a universal recognition, and it wasn't science. Science never has said anything or given us any information to say the sun isn't a life form. It was the church, a very jealous church, the Roman church, that literally burned that out of our culture over many centuries. That was verboten. And of course, the church ran all the schools and universities. So scientists coming through that system knew they didn't tread in this area. This was something you left to the church. And it became a taboo for scientists. But it was a church taboo in the first place, and science just still maintains, never thinks about it. But when you actually look at what's going on in the sun and its connection with other stars and how that is working, and you look at it with a clean sort of headset, as conscious life forms, they make their behavior makes much more sense than if you were to choose that they are, senseless balls of plasma that are completely accidental and happen to be behaving in these wonderful ways.
You spent most of your life introducing natural, organic, and vegetarian foods to Great Britain, as we discussed a few minutes ago. Do you see any connection between what you did then and what you are writing about now?
Yeah, well, then I was connecting people with our world, because we are a part of the world. It was Christianity, told us we dominate it. It was all built for us. Now we realize we're part of the universe. We're connected with it.
Right.
And we'd lost that connection with our food. And I thought it was very important to bring that back, because once that was in place, then people started to think about more spiritual things and natural forms of healing and yoga and meditation. But you needed a base to sort of put all of that into. So that was on a physical level, connecting us with our world. And of course, all the food we eat all the energy we get from our food is concentrated sunlight. So there's obviously a connection there.
Sure.
But connecting us with the nature of the actual light of our life, the sun, is making that spiritual connection that has been broken, because all the energy of life is recycled sunlight. 97% of the matter in our body is recycled stardust. So, we're made from stardust. We're powered by starlight. We're stellar beings, and we don't realize that. So we're like spiritual orphans in that situation. So I'm reconnecting us with that, as I did earlier with the nature of the food we eat.
You were mentioning the importance of food and the stellar connection. This is a sidebar, but I have to ask you at this point, since you are into the natural, organic, and vegetarian foods, what is your opinion? And I'm asking you as a professional of genetically modified food.
It terrifies me. It really terrifies me. The whole concept of that, because we have really developed good, wholesome foods over thousands of years. Our enzymes and our cells in our body have learned how to work with these things, and really slight changes can seriously damage that ability in ways that we don't understand at all. And Yeah, just little things like with our diet, like we learn, we learn what's good, what's not, and different varieties of things aren't good. I'm horrified by it. I don't really. There's lots of evidence from people and from animal studies that it is dangerous, but that's the research that gets promoted, and is the research that says, oh, it's all absolutely fine. But it's scary. It really is scary, and the American people are being experimented on in a very big way.
Getting back to Son of God, which is your recent book, Gregory, there seems to be an ongoing debate and conflict between the Bible-believing creationists and the scientifically rational evolutionists. Now, what do you mean when you suggest that they are at each other's best argument? Or they are each other's best argument, I should say.
Yeah, it's the whole God made the earth in 7 days and put the stars there to decorate our night sky, and this whole kind of story of how it came to be is, to many rational people who've looked at the evidence, preposterous.
Sure.
And yet, if you have any sort of ounce of spirituality in you, and you go out and you connect with the world, and whether you hug trees or talk to your plants or soak in the energy of the mountains and the ocean and the sunrise and the sunset, you realize there's something very powerful there, that there's some intelligence, something it's design, and to sort of suppose that this all fell together accidentally, happenstance, through sheer ignorant accident, is also preposterous. So if those are the only two arguments you're looking at, then you really have a choice between tradition or science. But neither of them makes sense. So either side looks at the other side, blows apart their argument, and says, well, choose us, we must be right. And of course, what I'm putting forward, as you referred to earlier, is bottom-up design. Not somebody outside of the system deciding, hey, wouldn't butterflies be cool, and redwood trees, or complete accident, but the sort of intelligence that you get in a termite mound, where all those individual termites, and none of them went to architectural college, but they build this incredible thing called a termite mound, which is perfectly ventilated, buttressed architecture, all of that, it's intricacies to it. Or you get the human brain, which is bottom-up design. There's not some sort of clique of neurons telling the other ones what to think. It's all sort of arising from the bottom up. And rainforest, that's all organized from the bottom up. Nobody picks where you're going to put trees, where the rivers are going to go, how many frogs to go here and there. And when you look at the universe, that's what's happening everywhere. And you can get intelligence, you can get design, as you referred to earlier. The universe is filled with intelligence and design, but we don't need a out-of-the-system, capital letters, intelligent designer to do that.
Greg, you and I have to take our news break at the bottom of the hour. Thank you so much for joining us today. It's a great pleasure talking to you, and congratulations on Son of God.
Thank you.
Exo Nation, for more information on Gregory Sam, www.sonofgod.net. Now that's SUN of God.net, or www.gregorysams.com. Gregory Sams and I will return on the other side of this news break as the X Zone continues, right here from our studios in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. My name is Rob McConnell. Don't go away.
My name is Michael Telstar, Canada's leading mentalist from Toronto, Ontario.
Hi, my name is Splenda, and you're listening to my dad, Rob McConnell, on the X Zone.
This is Psychic Dorothy from St. Catharines, and you're listening to Rob McConnell. Hello, my name is Holly Reeves, an astrologer from Astro For You, and you're listening to Canada's #1 paranormal radio show, The X Zone, with Rob McConnell.
Welcome to The X Zone, a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. Now, here's your host, Rob McConnell.
Ain't no sunshine when she's gone. It's not warm when she's away. Ain't no sunshine when she's gone, and she's always gone too.
Gregory Sams is my special guest this hour, X Zone Nation. He is the author of Son of Gold, and it's available at all good bookstores. For more information, visit www.sonofgold.net. That's S-U-N of God. I'm sorry, sonofgod.net. sonofgod.net or www.gregorysams.com. Gregory, what is your interest in the sun, and what is the most interesting aspect of the sun to you?
Well, the most interesting aspect I came across after I'd written the book is something that NASA discovered just a couple years ago, and that's a magnetic portal that connects Sun to Earth. It's roughly the diameter of the Earth. It's a tube defined by a sort of magnetic field around it that comes from the Sun's corona to Earth. And every 8 minutes, tons of high-energy particles pass back and forth through this connective magnetic portal. Mm-hmm. And I just think that's mind-boggling. and it's there. You know, NASA, they say they never believed that existed a couple of years ago, but they've got 4 satellites sort of looking for EM fields, and they found it.
Now, why did you title your book Son of God? Are you suggesting that we actually go back to sun worship?
I'm suggesting we rediscover our sun. And the original term, meaning of worship, implied imbuing the qualities, the vibrations of that which you're worshiping. It's more of a connection than a sort of groveling in the sand, and as a worthless sin or anything. It's actually connecting with those vibrations. And let's face it, light is a vibration. It's a vibration that's traveling 93 million miles across space from the sun, and it feels good. We all feel better on a nice sunny day than we do on a gray, rainy day. And it's a good feeling that you can't simulate by going into a bright room and turning the heating up. There's something about those loving, living vibrations that make us feel that way. And by understanding that the sun isn't a dead ball of gas up there and absorbing those vibrations, there's a connection. That's worship that is going on, and you send your own vibrations back to it at the same time.
So basically what you're suggesting is we take the sun and the worshiping of the sun and put it into a modern day and age approach.
Yeah, and you don't need a special building or people to tell you to interpret sunlight for you.
Right.
There are ways to do it. There's a yogic sun salutation, which is a set of exercises that people have been doing for centuries, which is a way of greeting the sun. But you don't need specific techniques. It's there for all to see.
Gregory, what is your take on dark matter and dark energy, said to make up 95% of the universe?
Yeah, I find it amazing that scientists sort of say 95% of the universe is something we cannot detect, see, or in any way prove. I mean, that's why they knock homeopathy and astrology, because you can't really prove it or measure it. And they're saying 95% of the universe is this. Now, if you understand stars as a life form, not just accidental balls of stuff out there, then you could see that a galaxy itself is a combination. It's like a city or a nation of these. And just to rewind on dark matter, the whole reason for dark matter, it's not something that they know about. It's the name that's been given to a solution that has not yet been found. And it's a solution to why the stars at the outside of a galaxy don't travel at the same speed, or do travel at the same speed as the stars in the center of the galaxy. And if it's all accidentally driven by gravity through a black hole in the center of the galaxy, that doesn't stack up. So they've had to, why doesn't it stack up? They don't know. So they say, okay, let's say the answer is dark matter. Well, the answer is that the galaxy isn't stupid. That's why it doesn't fall apart. It's not just accidental action. And the same argument applies to dark energy, which is there to explain how the universe expands as it does. But if you recognize this as a living system, then you don't need these undetectable constructs.
What do you say to people who look at you and say, worship the sun? The sun is nothing else but a big light bulb in the sky.
I say, read my book. And I also point out that there's 7 very distinct levels to the sun, all of them doing very different things within the sun. Some of the levels turn around each other at different speeds, acting like a dynamo to generate electricity. It's got it's just a wash with electromagnetic fields, all of which interface with each other. One of those electromagnetic fields is called the heliosphere. It forms a bubble which encompasses the entire solar system, and it's a protective bubble. And without that, the planets would eventually be eaten away by high energy cosmic rays. There's a magnetic portal I mentioned earlier connecting it to Earth. And, a giant light bulb in the sky, I don't think so.
Something else that I found rather amusing was that you've compared the Milky Way galaxy to the human mind. Now, what on earth do you mean by this?
What on earth do I mean by this? This is one of my further out analogies, but I think it's one that bears looking at.
Okay.
And if you look at our brain, it's composed of 100 billion plus neurons.
Yeah.
None of them are actually connected to each other physically, but they all have these sort of synapse connections, which, one neuron might be connected to 1,000 other neurons. But the electromagnetic sparks go across the synapses from one to the other. And if you look at the galaxy, it's composed of the similar number of 100 to 500 billion stars in the Milky Way. And they have identified electromagnetic fields connecting some of the stars to other stars. Now, it's a field in its infancy, so they don't know. But the stars are in the business of sending energetic signals out into space. And the cosmological assumption is that these are just akin to when we belch after a meal or something. It's all meaningless stuff. But, it's quite possible that all the energy that goes into sending these electromagnetic blasts out have a purpose. And that each star, may well be in contact with other stars, and that between them, they create a neurological structure similar to that in the human brain.
How can something like the sun attain consciousness without the cellular nervous structure that makes up our brains?
Okay, well, if you look at our bodies, their whole purpose of it, aside from getting us around, is to take in this case, it takes in solar energy, takes in sunlight through food, and converts that into energy. And the actual life force that we enjoy is an energy field. It's not a physical thing. And if you take that energy away, then we're called dead. Nothing is going on. All the physical stuff is the same, but it's the energy that is our life. Now, if you look at the sun, it's a large physical body, and it's a very complex one. And what it does is it creates energy fields. And I don't think that we can assume that this particular construct is the only, human being and worms and things kind of like us on other planets, is the only thing that can create the energy of life. And that it's such a rare property in the universe. I think we're just one manifestation of consciousness. And you look at the sun, it creates these energy fields that are very active. All we can really do is measure them. We have no way of interpreting what's going on. We can barely read our own brain waves. We're starting to make headways to read brain waves, find out what's going on. But, it's really uncharted territory. And there's absolutely no reason that consciousness should have to be attached to this cellular structure of energy that we experience.
All right. Now, while scientists are still debating whether or not the human entity or human beings exercise free will, you suggest that it is all over the place. How do you explain this?
Well, this is the self-organization that goes on from the bottom up. And there's got to be an element of free will in the decisions of where trees, frogs, and so forth are going to be. And there are scientists who do not believe that human beings experience free will. Now, when they say that, that means that everything we do, what we choose to have for dinner tonight, the conversation that we're having at the moment, what I Google next, is all down to the arrangement of particles at the Big Bang. And, that is what having free will or not having free will is about as a human being. Now, there are two professors from Princeton, Professors Koch and Conway, who have proven mathematically, they say, that if we do have free will, then so do atomic particles. And that if atomic particles don't have free will, neither do we. So their proof isn't saying which way it's going, but that's what they're saying. And they personally believe that the subatomic particles do have free will. And David Bohm had a landmark experiment in 1942 where he created a soup of plasma electrons. And he saw these electrons behaving, in his words, as if they were living beings and aware of everything that was going on around them. So, it's been recognized in the quantum level. I think most people would believe that human beings have free will themselves. And I think we really have to accept, as difficult as it is, that it's everywhere. And I do refer in my book to Professor John Walsh, who did work with amoeba in pond water and was following them around. He had a special camera technique to follow them around. He found they had different tastes. They had different palates in terms of what type of pond grunge they preferred eating. And he found the same thing with rats when he was feeding them Mars bars. Some liked that candy bar, some didn't. So, yeah, free will, I think it's all over the place.
What is your belief, or what are your thoughts on the multiverse, an infinite expanse of universe?
Well, the multiverse came into being because the more that cosmologists discovered about this universe, the more difficult it was for them to believe that all these thousands of factors could have come into place in the right sequence, in the right way, to create something as unlikely and incredible as this universe filled with stars and with planets and then with life on the planets. It was almost impossible for them to comprehend. And as a way of saying, how could this have ever happened? They said, okay, well, if you've got an infinity of universes, maybe on one of them, all of these factors might have just happened to come together in the right sequence to bring about the universe as we know it and life.
So
and
basically what they were doing was talking about the laws of probability.
Yeah, but that's a bit like the old William Shakespeare and the monkey. You have infinite monkeys, infinite typewriters. Exactly. One of them is going to eventually type out the complete works of William Shakespeare. It makes about as much sense. Much easier to recognize that there is bottom-up intelligence going on that started in those original clouds of hydrogen gas in the early universe.
Gregory, I hate to do this, but you and I have to take our final break for this hour. Exo Nation Gregory Sams is our guest. He's the author of Sons of God. That's SUN of God.com. Son of God, it's sonofgod.net, Exo Nation. Sonofgod.net or GregorySams.com. We'll be back on the other side of this break. Don't go away.
It's getting near dawn when lights close the tired eyes. I'll soon be with you, my love. Give you my dawn surprise. I'll be with you, darling, soon. I'll be with you when the
Exo Nation, Gregory Sams is my special guest. Now, here's the website. There's two websites, www.sonofgod.net. That's SUNOFGOD.net and www.gregorysams.com. Gregory, as the author of the only book in print exploring the subject of solar consciousness, do you sometimes get people giving you a funny look?
I certainly do, and I've had people giving me funny looks all of my life, and if I don't get funny looks, I know I'm not really doing anything very, very interesting. But as I referred earlier to my natural food career, gosh, people thought it was weird when you suggested that what they ate might affect their health. And then I got into chaos theory, and I'd go to poster publishers with some of these wild designs, and they'd say, "Gosh, we haven't got anything like this. We can't do it. If you look at our catalog, you'll see there's nothing like this in the catalog." And I said, "Well, yeah, it's different, but funny looks." And on this one, I get a lot of people though who just say, "Wow, that's fantastic. Tell me more." And some people who just, you see them looking over my shoulder for their quickest escape route as soon as they realize what I'm talking about. But I had a great encounter with Jonathan Kaner, who's the most well-known, loved astrologer in Great Britain, writes for the column for the Daily Mail, a major newspaper here. And he listened to one of my talks. And at the end of it, he actually came up and took the microphone and just said, "This has changed my life." It's like, just a penny dropped. He'd been working as a sun sign astrologer much of his life, and he'd never thought this because we don't. There's never anything in our cultural upbringing to make us think, hey, maybe the sun's alive. It's like, sun worship. That's what they used to do because they were stupid. But in fact...
they were smart.
They were smart. They were smarter than the early Roman Catholic Church.
Well, when you look back at the history of this planet, it always goes in a circle. It's a circular history that we have. And when you look at what is happening today in the year 2011, there are a lot of people who are watching the skies of the of the winter equinox on December the 21st, 2012 at 11:11 when the Incan round calendar comes to an end. And, you know, how is it that these ancient or these older civilizations had so much knowledge? Is it possible that the knowledge that was once there, which was lost, is now coming back?
Some of it is. Some of it is. I think people relied a lot more on their intuitions and the human senses, the eyes, trying to understand more about light from how it affects the back of your eyeballs. You know, when you look at a star, the vibrations of light that are absorbing into you from your eyeball came from all those light years away.
That's right.
And there's information in light. We know that.
Sure.
But we don't sort of try and read it in our minds.
You know what, Gregory? There's so much more you and I have to talk about, but unfortunately, we've run out of time for tonight. I'd love to have you back on. We'll have a producer contact you. And I'd like to thank you, and I'd also like to thank Gary Evans for making this interview possible. So until the next time we meet, Gregory Sams, keep up the great work. Nice talking to you. Take care of yourself now, and Happy New Year.
It's been a pleasure, Rob. Thank you.
Goodbye now. Gregory Sams, sonofgod.net and gregorysams.com. I'll be back after the news at 6.5 minutes past the hour here in the X Zone. Don't go away.